Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here. Hello, everyone. How you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. It is Monday, the 3rd of March, 2025 at 8 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/REGANELITE and on twitch.tv/REGANELITE1. Very quiet evening tonight. Not many people out and about, looks like. Bit different from last week. I think it's like the things have just kind of like calmed down because of what's been happening since Friday. Things have just been absolutely mad. But it looks like tonight's a bit of a quiet one here. Oh well, I'm not completely alone. Mad Monk 33 has turned up. Good to see you, Mad Monk. Hope you're doing well. So we've got quite a few. We're covering mainly UK here, and tomorrow I'm sure there'll be plenty more to talk about. I've seen comments from Donald Trump as well today, criticising Zelensky again, because obviously that's really helped him out so far, hasn't it? You know, criticising Vladimir Zelensky. Yeah, that live stream on Friday, guys, that was pretty crazy. If you haven't seen it, like, do check it out. I mean, it was just like, it was really just went off the cuff. I really did, because it was just a case of like, I hadn't seen the full. I did go back and watch it all in full, as well. It was pretty brutal for him. You know. Up. It was only up till the clothes thing, and that's when everything is just like it all exploded, really. So, Akish Mag, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Steve McMorrin, as well. Hope you're doing well. Right, so quite a lot has happened over the past couple of days, guys. So, obviously, as you guys know, we had the summit in London with lots of European Union leaders. We also had the Canadian Prime Minister was also there. I think someone from I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Turkish president wasn't there, but I think even representatives from Turkey was there as well. But they also had the Baltic nations on on video call as well that were there yesterday. So of course Zelensky was there. So that was very good for him. I thought the support that Keir Starmer showed to Zelensky after that meeting, I thought was really strong, really powerful. That he literally just dropped, all plans to basically have him in and also getting him a meeting with the king. I thought that was really good. Like, there's a lot of things about Sir Keir Starmer I really don't like, but one thing is for certain, and you cannot argue that the last couple of days over this whole situation, Keir Starmer's handled it brilliantly. I'm sorry, he's handled it brilliantly, very professionally. I mean, just imagine that situation if we had Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss. Like, just imagine some of those people in this situation, and we actually had like a prime minister who was competent in this situation. Like, I don't even trust Kemi Badenoch to have been reliable as well, So I'm very thankful that we had a prime minister who handled himself pretty well, all intents and purposes. When after Friday, obviously, all those world leaders coming out in support of Zelensky, Keir Starmer didn't say anything. He kept quiet. So there was like people were raising eyebrows. I don't know. I still at this time of this recording as well. Someone please tell me if Barack Obama has tweeted anything. Has Joe Biden tweeted anything? Like, has any previous US president said anything about what happened on Friday? Because even Kamala Harris, I think, has been quiet about it too, which is really bad, really bad. Yeah, you can see this cough is not going away, guys. I need the weather to turn. I think once the weather warms up, it might finally go away. But yeah, and I did watch. Obviously, we'll come to this in a moment, guys. Here from Sky News, and that Britain must lead from the front in the Ukraine, and tough choices to come, says Sir Keir Starmer. I haven't watched all of it. I would say watched about more than an hour and a half of Keir Starmer taking questions in the Commons today. Again, fair play to him for spending he spent over 2 hours in the Commons. Oh no, it wasn't 2 hours. Sorry, no, apologies. It was more than an hour. I think more than an hour and a half. I think he spent in the Commons taking questions from MPs, which you know, which I thought was really, really good. Wasn't happy with how he responded to the SNP's with Stephen Flynn's question. Wasn't happy how he responded to Adrian Ramsey's question. Like proper snubbing the SNP and the Greens in his responses to the questions. And yet, but when it came to Conservatives or Liberal Democrats, he was very kind and polite to them. He was. We'll get to Nigel Farage in a bit as well, with how he responded to that question. But you know, it was very, very cozy with the very big political parties. But when it came to a Green MP speaking or an SNP speaking, it was a bit of a different flavour. And it's just like Stephen Flynn wasn't even like attacking or anything. It was like like everyone was supposed, with the exception of Nigel Farage's party, everyone was united. But he still wanted to take a little jab at Greens, which kind of pissed me off. And he still wanted to take a jab at the SNP, even though Stephen Flynn, you know, wholeheartedly gave his support. And it was just like, yes, I know Aki's mad. I need to book that at some point, brother. Well, I will sort that out at some point. It's on my jobs list, that is. So yeah, so Sir Keir Starmer's common statement comes from after a potentially consequential few days for the future of Ukraine, with America's role uncertain after Donald Trump's extraordinary row with Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. So he's not ruling out support for America, but I just think like the problem, like I think I've said this in my video anyway, but the problem is that America and UK are too intertwined. You can't just simply expect Britain to kind of sever all their ties with the UK. It's very interlinked. Britain and America are very, very interlinked, and in a weird sort of way, Nigel Farage was right about one thing, and that is actually Brexit has given the UK a unique position because we're not in the European Union. It allows us to have this position of we could still be close to America while also being close to the EU, of having that balance. And I just wonder, if we were in the European Union, we probably wouldn't have this kind of position. So in that sense, and only that sense alone, Brexit may be helping us in this situation. Still would take under in Brexit more than anything, but I expected Nigel Farage to go along those lines anyway, you know, to keep the whole Brexit thing going, to be fair. So there are more tough choices on Ukraine, and Britain must lead from the front, Sir Keir Starmer has said, and he's very much led from the front on all this. Joe Lefty, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. The Prime Minister gave a statement in Parliament after he unveiled proposals for a coalition of the willing to enforce any peace deal in a war-torn country and announced plans for Kiev to use £1.6 billion of UK export finances to buy 5,000 more air defence missiles. Like, I want to point this out here as well, like, because I'm all in favour of supporting Ukraine, giving Ukraine whatever it needs in this conflict, right? But do not tell me that we do not have the money to deal with this cost of living crisis, or to do something about all of our bills going up. The UK government can do something about all these problems, and they are choosing politically not to. Let's be very clear about that. He said the tough choices we made last week are not done, and a lasting peace in Ukraine has to be our goal. Britain will be leading from the front for the security of our continent, the security of our country, security of the British people, he said. Follows a hectic week of diplomacy for Sir Keir, during which he held talks with Donald Trump at the White House on Thursday, hosted Ukrainian President in Downing Street on Saturday, and then a wider summit of world leaders on Sunday. Sandwiched between his Washington, D.C. trip and a busy weekend back home was Volodymyr Zelensky's extraordinary row with the US President in the Oval Office, which cast more doubt on America's support for Kiev. Sir Keir said the showdown was something nobody wanted to see, but he would not pick a side. Yeah, and I agree with him. He should not pick a side. He shouldn't need to pick a side, really. I know people are going to push him and pander him to do so, but he can sit in this position. If he's put in an ultimatum, then we'll see what happens then. But right now, he doesn't need to put himself into a position of picking. He calls America an indispensable ally, adding, "We will never choose between either side of the Atlantic." In fact, if anything, the past week has shown that the idea is totally unserious, because while some people may enjoy the simplicity of taking a side, this week has shown with total clarity is that the US is vital in securing peace we all want to see in Ukraine. In front of the world's cameras on Friday, Mr. Trump accused the Ukrainian president of disrespecting the United States and gambling with World War III. After expressed skepticism about Vladimir Putin could be trusted to honour those ceasefire agreements. We've already spoke about that on Friday's live stream. It has intensified fears among some Western leaders that the US cannot be relied upon to continue supporting Ukraine or provide a security guarantee to deter the Russian leader if a peace deal is struck. After the PM statement, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey said the UK needs to reduce our dependency on the United States as he fears President Trump is not a reliable ally with respect to Russia. I think this is a really, really good point here. Simon says 55, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Why is my chat not showing all my messages? There we go. I don't like it when not all my messages are appearing. Apologies. Yeah. Ed Davey is absolutely right. We need to reduce our dependence on the United States. Unfortunately, that's something that has to be slow. That can't be ramped up. Can't be done overnight. I do think the UK should try and do that. The problem is that it will show that we are trying to sever our ties with America if we do that as well. So I do agree with him. We need to do it, but I want to do it in such a way that doesn't punish us by America, as in like them throwing tariffs at us that they may or may not throw at us as well, or other means of hurting us, because there are actions that America can take to harm us, can harm us. So I do agree in reducing it. It's kind of how do you do it, but can you do it quietly is the problem. Is the question I think is worth asking, guys. Can we reduce our dependency on the US, but do it in a way that will not affect us politically? I think there. However, many other opposition politicians have praised Sir Keir's diplomacy this week, with Tory leader coming back not backing the Prime Minister for working with allies in Europe and with the United States to bring peace to Ukraine and not surrender to Russia. This is good. You know, when it came to the COVID pandemic, you know, both Jeremy Corbyn and Keir Starmer were both very supportive of the Prime Minister, even if we didn't agree with what was going on. This is something that I think, you know, everyone rightly should be uniting behind. This is the one thing Kemi has gotten right, and I'm glad she's changed her tune on this, on the situation. I've, you know, listening to her ask her a question today was very respectable, very reasonable, and it'd be nice if she was more like that. I don't know how PMQs is going to go, but she's still useless. But she was a lot nicer, and I would say the Conservative Party, it's actually beneficial for them politically to be on the right line of this, especially when they were the ones who gave that unwavering support for Ukraine as well. Sir Keir has been positioning himself as a peace broker between the US and Europe, following Mr. Trump's assertion to the White House and his clear indication that he no longer wants to bankroll NATO's defence. He has suggested a coalition of European allies could step up and defend a potential deal for Ukraine to guarantee the peace, and indicated some EU nations could follow the UK's footsteps, increasing defence spending. However, he argues that while a security guarantee should be led by the Europe, it needs US backing. Yeah, this is what Europe wants. They want a US guarantee, a guarantor from the United States, because a guarantor on Ukraine by the United States will force Russia not to be able to invade again. They won't be able to, because they would end up going to war with America. But at the same time, it's like, can you trust the US to keep to that commitment? And right now, the answer is no. When it comes to NATO right now, like if another country gets invaded that's under NATO's watch, can we rely on America to step in? And right now, the answer is no. Just don't trust them to do so. What makes Starmer think that Trump would keep his word? Even for the UK, we need to drop our dependency on America as soon as possible. I agree we need to drop our dependency on America, but I don't think we should do it publicly. I think we should do it quietly. I think if we can do it quietly, without making too much noise, slowly less reliance on America, I think that's definitely the way to do it. I wouldn't want to do it publicly. I think we should do it quietly, if I'm honest. I think that's the way we can do it. Everyone's still saying hello to each other. Mr. Trump has not committed to such a guarantee and previously suggested a minerals deal between the US and the UK could act as one. Yeah, this was something like the minerals deal was brought up in the Commons by Nigel Farage, basically claiming that that would be enough for guarantees of some sort from America. No, because it's not as if it's not going to guarantee US troops in Ukraine. You know, the minerals deal is a case of them mining it and then giving it to America. So I'm not sure how the minerals deal does benefit Ukraine's guarantee in any way, shape, or form. It's just to Trump, it's seen as give us some money, basically, is it how it comes across to me, all that. In response to a question from Reform leader Nigel Farage, Sir Keir told the Commons that he would not be enough on its own. And in any case, a deal has been put on hold following Mr. Trump's row with the Ukrainian president. Shortly after the Prime Minister finished speaking, Mr. Trump hailed Mr. Zelensky once again, saying the US would not put up with him for very much longer. He said at the end of the war with Russia is very far. Away. Yeah, Trump's comments have not been helpful in any way, shape, or form in this. But I know people are going to say it. That he's a Russian asset. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a Russian asset in any way, shape, or form. You know, he just will not criticize Russia. You know, he loves Russia. He praises Russia. I just think it would. I just think it wouldn't be. God, I'm losing my train of thought. I just think Trump is just too fascinated, too in love with Vladimir Putin and the power and the wheel that he holds, and he wants that for himself. Madmonth33 asks me, why should we drop USA quietly? They want to be mafia shouting out what they are doing. Yeah, but that means us getting hurt. That means us, whether it's politically or, you know, trade, consumer-wise, we do have trade deals. There are security guarantees. There's lots of contracts that we have with America. There's a lot of things that we don't know about that we have interlinked with the United States of America. It's easy to just say we should just drop everything with America, and unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. It really is not as simple as that. And why do I think we should do it quietly and not publicly? Because America can punish us. America can punish us. That's why. So I would rather do it behind the curtains. You know, Phil Morehouse has been saying about trying to slowly ebb things closer and closer to the EU and doing it behind closed doors. I would be inclined to do the same thing if we could do that with the United States. But I can see like Fox News pulling up an article or something, or coming up with something basically saying that the UK's pulling out of these odd things here and there that maybe the British media might pick up on. The right wing may bring up it possibly, but at the moment it seems like the Mail, the Telegraph, and whatnot seem to be siding with the government on its decision to stand by Ukraine. But I think that's the only reason is because the British public are firmly behind the support of Ukraine, so they can't exactly go against the British public really on that. Politics are a long-term thing. You don't burn everything down for what may be 4 difficult years. Yeah, but that's the thing as well. Like I've said it. I'm gonna say it in my video anyway. We are interlinked with America. We can't just drop everything. You know, we can't just drop everything. But I do think we should do it quietly. I really hope we can do. To be fair. Here with the Independent, the Farage has been accused of licking Trump's boot after calling Zelensky rude over a White House clash. I wish I had the picture with me, but the I've got to say, the Liberal Democrats came out with I wish I could find it actually now. The Liberal Democrats had this picture on their ads of an action figure of Nigel Farage, of him like Putin's puppet and bootlicker and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty funny, to be fair, for coming from them there. But we only just do 70% of trade with USA. It's not just trade. It's not just about the trade that we have with America. You know, they can shake the global economy, which can affect us as well. It's not just about the trade. There's so many other things. That can have ripple effects, and it could also affect it could also affect other relationships outside of America that we could have outside of Europe, that it could affect as well. So and especially with our relationship with Canada as a Commonwealth as well. You know, we don't want to do anything to antagonize America. I understand we want to stand up to him. I really, really get it, but I also understand the political situation that he is in as well. So the Reform UK leader blamed the Ukrainian president for having played it very, very badly as soon as Mr. Zelensky of bowling in and showing no respect. Well, I'm sorry, but Nigel Farage, you know, has shown just how bloody stupid he is, because he obviously didn't watch the same thing as we did. Like, I literally showed, like, we didn't watch the whole thing, but we saw enough of it to know that it was clearly J.D. Vance and Donald Trump who were the ones who were making a meal out of everything here. Steve McMahon, thank you so much for the 10 New Zealand dollars. I really appreciate that. Guys, if you want to join me on the Discord after the show, you're more than welcome to come hop on and chat for a little bit if you want to do that when we're done here. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Very generous of you. So he was on LBC this morning as well. I watched certain clips. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw certain clips of it as well. So Nigel Farage has been accused of acting as a Donald Trump spokesperson in Britain for refusing to criticise his ally after the US president bullied and belittled Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office last Friday. Yeah, because he can't afford to belittle him. He needs to keep him on. He needs to be nice to Donald Trump, doesn't he? Ben Shaw, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. The Reform UK leader blamed the Ukrainian president for having played the White House meeting very badly, as well as accusing Mr. Zelensky of bowling in and showing no respect for the American counterpart. And asked whether he thinks Mr. Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance had bullied Mr. Zelensky, Mr. Farage deflected to accuse the Ukrainian of having been rude to his US counterpart in his own house. He was condemned by opponents from across the political spectrum for his intervention. Now, excuse me, who was the one who raised their voice first? It was J.D. Vance who raised their voice first. And they started shouting first. You know, I always thought Donald Trump was a real nasty person. I know there have been some nasty people, but, you know, the very possibility that in 4 years' time we could have J.D. Vance as President of the United States I think, is even more terrifying than Donald Trump as President right now. Because A, he's a bit more competent, but B, he's nasty. And he showed that nastiness in front of the world, in front of the cameras, in front of the Ukrainian president. And he tried to undermine Keir Starmer and got slapped down by Keir Starmer very, very well as well. So, yeah, I think J.D. Vance is a real work. I'm sure I'll be mentioning him tomorrow. But ask whether he thinks Mr. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance had bullied Mr. Zelensky. Mr. Farage deflected to accuse of being rude to his counterpart in his own house, and he was condemned by opponents from across the political spectrum for the intervention. Yeah, he got called out a few times. MP for Clacton he got called out a few times in the comments today as well. You know, which was it was nice that he got condemned a few times by them. He got booed as well. He got a few boos as well from the MPs, which was nice as well. Jane Wallace, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. Calling out the Reform UK leader in the comments, Sir Keir Starmer said, "Can I just remind him that Russia is the aggressor? Zelensky is a war leader whose country has been invaded, and we should all be supporting him and not floundering over Putin." Yeah, and that's exactly what exactly what he's doing. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davies said Nigel Farage is once again showing his true colours as Trump's own spokesperson here in Britain. Zelensky showed courage and integrity in the room in stark contrast to Farage's cowardly approach to licking Trump's boots. Mr. Farage is more focused on promoting Trump and Musk's interest in the UK than British interest in the States. He is once again parroting White House talking points this morning to the dismay of the British people here at home, and it's clearer than ever that Nigel Farage is simply out for himself and his Mar-a-Lago cronies. And that the Conservatives said Mr. Zelensky is a hero who stood up to Putin's aggression and led to the country's defence against a barbaric and illegal invasion. It is troubling not to hear the leader of Reform say that, shed the shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel, she said. For Nigel Farage to sit there pointing the finger at Zelensky is both morally wrong and diplomatically counterproductive. At this uncertainty and dangerous time, one would hope that MPs of all stripes would be putting our national interests first, rather than playing politics. But sadly, it's not surprising, like Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of Reform UK, seems to have historically equivocally over Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. I don't know why she's bringing up Jeremy Corbyn in this situation. So if someone wants to open in this matter, but Jeremy Corbyn is an independent sitting in the corner. I don't even think he was there today at the Commons. He wasn't even there. I'm pretty sure he wasn't there. I would have noticed him if he was there. So I'm not. I would have liked to have seen him there, but I'm sure but we know he's a very busy MP. To be fair, he's a lot more. He does a lot more work than certain other MPs. But yeah, Priti Patel's tweet really that's very scary to be agreeing with Priti Patel. Yeah, that's a really bad sign, guys. If you're agreeing with Priti Patel, that's really, really bad. To be agreeing with a blood-sucking vampire like her, that's definitely worrying indeed. Labour MP Blaine Goddard, a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, told The Independent that he was utterly unsurprised by Mr Farage joining the attack on Mr Zelensky. He added, most of us looked at Putin and felt disgust. Farage has always been someone to admire. A leader who can't pick a side between a murderous dictatorship and democracy doesn't deserve to be anywhere near decisions about Britain's security. A Labour MP, David Taylor, told The Independent, it's telling when the PM announced its essential uplift in defence spending, not a single member of Reform was there to ask a question. Yeah, the uplift defence spending, they weren't there as well. I should just point out that just because Reform right now, it may seem like that there's a distaste of Reform UK because of how Nigel Farage is conducting himself in this situation, doesn't mean that people will still be turned off by Reform UK. People have to keep reminding them of what they have said and what they have done. Reform UK, you have to keep reminding their voters, because some of them will completely just be oblivious and say no, I don't care about Labour or Conservatives or any other party. Reform is the only answer, which is the comment I hear a lot from some of my videos, which is ridiculous. Vance is variable depending on who is paying him, says Jane Wallace. Yeah, money does talk at the end of the day, that is true. Mr Farage is not fit to comment on Zelensky's actions. The former appears consistently absent, while the latter has fought not just for Ukraine's future, but for ours here in the UK. Mr Farage claims reform is the patriotic party, but calls Zelensky, who is the greatest wartime leader of our generation, unwise. Yeah. Tim Rocker, Labour MP for Macclesfield, added that his latest refusal to stand by Ukrainians demonstrate his warped worldview. Reform wrapped themselves in a flag and performative patriotism only to abandon their values when our country was built on, he told The Independent. I'm proud that the PM is living up to those values, showing leadership and demonstrating to Putin that we stand with our allies and just for peace in Ukraine. Yeah, he was, like I said, he was very good today. And he's been brilliant, Keir Starmer, over this whole situation. Speaking to LBC on Monday, Mr Farage said, I think President Zelensky was very unwise to tell Americans what would happen to them if they didn't back him. And I think it is unwise. No, he's perfectly entitled as a democratically elected president, to voice his opinions, just like anyone else is allowed to voice their opinions. Yeah, sure, Vance and Trump bit back, but I think in diplomatic terms, I think Zelensky played it very badly. How did Zelensky play it very badly? It was Trump and Vance, who battered at him again. Like, he doesn't really have a leg to stand on this situation. Honestly, if we would treat a guest like that, Mr Farage said, I wouldn't expect a guest to be rude in my own house. Absolutely not. I would expect a guest with respect. He wasn't rude in any way, shape or form. And this is something that's been brought up in numerous times as well, is that this may not shock anyone, but English is not his second language. It's actually, I think it's his third or fourth language. Russian's actually his first language. Ukrainian is his second language. I think it was today or yesterday when he had a chat with one of the Sky News reporters. They actually had a translator there to make sure that whatever he was saying was clear as well. And I think that's what he's going to be doing going forward with most things, just to make sure that he's not misinterpreting what he's saying. When pressed on whether he saw any problems with the way Mr Trump behaved, he responded, I'm not defending what they did. But you're not he's not defending. He's saying I'm not defending what they did, but he's not going to criticize it either. He was then asked whether he himself would behave like that, to which he responded, "I'm not. I try not to," adding, "This is irrelevant." Well, it is irrelevant. This is true. This is irrelevant. This is relevant because if you are to be a political leader yourself, if you think you've got what it takes to be prime minister, you have to show how you would conduct yourself in these situations. So it does matter. Mr Farage later joined Mr Trump in questioning Mr Zelensky's outfit choice for the White House visiting, saying, if I turned up at the White House, I'd make sure I was wearing a suit and my shoes were cleaned. I'm still waiting for them to criticize the Indian president Modi. You know, wasn't they always turn up in a proper suit as well? You know, why are we not demanding that the Saudi king come in a suit as well? You know, nobody's saying anything about the Saudi king. Nobody's saying anything there either. Like, am I missing something here? You know, don't say anything. Oh, you know, Elon Musk just turns up at their first cabinet meeting, you know, wearing like a shirt or a baseball cap and whatnot. But, you know, we don't say anything about that. You know, just pointing these things out. It's not the first time that Reform UK leader has been criticised for his approach to the conflict in Ukraine. During the general election, he was condemned for claiming that the West had provoked Russia into deadly invasion. Labour MP Will Stone added, Nigel Farage and Reform are all over the place when it comes to supporting Ukraine. Farage has openly stated he admires Vladimir Putin and claims that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was a consequence of the EU and NATO expansion. Yeah, because we know that it would not be, like, I'm just coming out of an allegation here. It's entirely possible that there's Russian money within the Reform UK party. Steve McMahon says Trump just made English the official language of the United States, which is tough on himself as he doesn't speak it. That's true. He doesn't speak English himself. He speaks dumb. He speaks dumb, which is very hard for us to understand anything he says. Jane Wallace, yes, I've covered this in a short video, and for those who don't know about it, apparently Trump has told the cybersecurity department to stop monitoring Russia. If that's true, then Zelensky was right to voice concern about his country's security. Yeah, that is true. They have still continued to deny. They haven't said yes, and they have, from what I've heard publicly, they haven't said yes and they haven't said no to it. From my understanding, this weekend our Prime Minister Keir Starmer showed that our support for Ukraine is unwavering. It's a shame Nigel Farage and Reform UK can't do the same. Yep, another person saying, yep, focusing on debates. Zelensky was about to close. The latest round comes to Trump operator Zelensky and his conduct during the Ukraine war. Yep, we already talked about that. Anything else to add? King Charles Mr. Zelensky has shown them in an overall show of solidarity with the Ukrainian president and the most conspicuous political act that the king has made since succeeding Queen Elizabeth, who went to great lengths to keep out of politics. I'm going to go out on a limb that King Charles said, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the king probably said, fuck Donald Trump, privately to Zelensky. I'm just gonna allege that's what he said to him privately. I'm just putting that out there, guys. Just putting out there. You know, like he says, I'm alleging that's what the king told Zelensky. You know, considering how he treated the Queen. You know, I'm just saying. And I was also noticed today as well. I didn't actually see it apparently because you know when the Trump was waving around the King's letter they got from the Prime Minister when Keir Starmer visited over on Thursday. Like people were like taking snapshots of him holding it and that, so they can read what the context of it was saying. And yet we didn't realise that apparently Mr. Trump can't actually read the letter, and it's just like, oh my god, how embarrassing. Trump, Vance and Farage forget Putin is the aggressor, not Zelensky. Yeah, I know. It's the lie is so absurd, but they're still going with it. The lie is so absurd, but they just can't quantify it. They're just expecting people to be that darn stupid to not realise that this is not going to work. Like, this is not going to wash with us. We are not that stupid. I'm sure tomorrow I will cover one or two things on it. I might even do another American live stream on Friday, because I don't expect it to be madness, but there is one madness going on, and I'll be covering tomorrow, and that's what's happening in the Middle East, because it could all, the Gaza war could kick off at any moment, really, with the fragility of what's happening there. Mefro, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And anybody else who's lurking in the chats, don't be shy to feel free to say hello. Right, let's move away from this whole debacle, guys. So, a couple of different stories here to cover here. This one is from The Guardian. So, Labour unveils a sick pay guarantee for 1.3 million lowest paid workers. So, workers earning under £123 a week are to get 80% of their salary in sick pay, keeping more people off benefits. this is this is something that's really good thing with regards to sick pay. People need that assurances that when they are unwell, that they do not lose their job. Unfortunately, this is a little bit too late because, you know, after COVID, a lot of people just ended up being on the dole because they couldn't get back into their jobs because they were sick and sick pay dried up and they were just bummed out. So while I welcome this, it just feels like too little, too late. But I don't necessarily blame Labour because it was, you know, these kind of things, they take time to process. It's not something that can be done overnight. Steam Banker, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. No, Charlie is not that dumb. He would have given him a cup of tea and a Cape mumbling platitudes. And there, dear chap. Yes, he would have been like that. He would have been like that. Oh, by the way, just because I'm saying this about the king doesn't mean I endorse the royals or anything like that. Like I don't. I'm just putting it on the perspective of, like, we all want Zelensky and Ukraine to succeed in all this. I'm just for reference. But, like, I really hope that this protects more workers' income when it comes to their jobs. My worry is that companies will try to find ways around this in some way, shape, or form to not foot the bill for sick workers. But obviously, I mean, they're quite strict. Companies are quite strict here when it comes to sick pay anyway. But there's another thing about what employees will get to later on, which was very infuriating. I read in the Times. We'll get to a bit later. So let's read a bit more into this. So more than 1 million of the lowest paid UK workers are to be guaranteed sick pay of up to 80% of their weekly salary from the first days of sickness, under changes intended to boost living standards. So the UK has become one of the stringent rate of statutory sick pay in the developed world, according to the Resolution Foundation, with those earning less than £123 a week not entitled to anything. For the rest, the rate is just set at just £116.75 a week. At present, rising to £118.75 or £3 an hour. For full-time workers from April, that only kicks in until after 3 days of sickness. Under the changes expected to be introduced next year, workers earning below the £123 limited will be entitled to sick pay of 80% of their wages. The government says this will mean 1.3 million of the UK's lowest earners will be up to £100 a week better off than under the current system, keeping more people off benefits, as they will not need to quit their jobs while they're ill. The government has promised last year to reset sick pay for the lowest earners, with those working multiple jobs such as cleaners, carers or parents. Juggling childcare expected to benefit most. It has been a fault to be considering a rate of little as 60% of weekly pay before plumbing for the higher rates. Liz Kendall, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, said for too long sick workers have had to decide between staying at home and losing a day's pay or soldiering on at the risks just to make ends meet. No one should ever have to choose between their health and earning and living, which is why we're making this landmark change. The new boost is good for workers and fair on businesses as part of our plan to boost rights and make work pay while delivering on our plan for change. Sounds good on paper, but like I said, there's a bit later on which is not always that case. QA Library, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. However, there could be disappointment among workers' rights groups as the TUC, which has previously urged the government to get sick pay for those under the £123 limit at no less than 95% of weekly pay. Paul Newark, the General Secretary of TUC, welcomed the upgrade to sick pay, but said this shouldn't be the end of the story. We urge ministers in future to raise the replacement rate for the lowest earners beyond 80% and undertake a wider view of the statutory sick pay rate. The change of sick pay will be introduced as part of a string of updates to the Employment Rights Bill to be laid before Parliament this week. Changes to the bill expect to include setting a probationary period for new workers at 9 months rather than the 6 months previously anticipated, ditching a mooted right to switch off at evenings and weekends. Yeah, we're going to talk about that right and switch off a bit later, guys. But yeah, there is more to be done on this, but I will say, look, this is a step in the right direction for this government, so I will give it credit on this. But obviously, like I said, the other thing will come to later. But yeah, more needs to be done to ensure that people aren't laid off from their jobs and that they're getting enough money from their employer when it comes to them being unwell. I think more needs to be more definitely needs to be done. That's a lie. Are people really that stupid to fall for it? It's statutory sick pay that kicks in after the first 3 days, said Man 133. I can't I can only go by the announcement here. Maybe the actual problem is that these people are on such low wages in the first place. Yeah, that's true. Like for me, like it is frustrating for people on low pay. I mean, like I said, it is a step in the right direction, but more needs to be done there. That is for sure. So I've got a couple more stories, guys, before as well for you guys. We've been talking quite a bit about the whole Keir Starmer, Trump, and Zelensky, and all that. But one thing we did cover, obviously, was for all the things that happened. So sick is £98.40. If that's the maths you've just done with the calculations based on the minimum wage, probably. Which, if that's a month, is that for the whole month? I'm assuming. Not 100% sure. I have to do the maths myself. Anyway, guys, we're going to take a quick break here while I compose myself here. Hope you guys enjoy this funny video from Matt Green here, titled that Our Leader Meets the Orange Monster.
News this week in the village as our brave leader travelled to the cave of the orange gibbering monster to pay tribute to him. Our diplomacy, sycophancy and treading carefully town crier Jonathan Godisgood has more.
Yes, that's right. Ever since the big orange monster took over the cave, we've reported on how cruel and capricious he can be, making decisions one day, then changing them the next, with seemingly no rhyme or reason.
Well, he is a monster.
Exactly. But today, our village's leader pulled off a great coup.
Did he use that word?
Definitely not. That would not have gone down well. But through a mixture of flattery, obsequiousness, and simply ignoring some of the noises that the great monster made, our leader does seem to have been successful in not being eaten.
So what was the upshot?
The famously unreliable gibbering orange monster did indicate that he might be willing to leave our village alone for a while, and also not demand the same number of young maidens to devour as he does with the town next door.
And what do we have to do in return?
Simply agreed to host a visit from him at the house of the honorary chieftain.
The honorary chieftain must love that.
He's used to dealing with monsters. Just look at his family.
Sounds like the leader did well.
Yes, and it comes at an important time for him after months of bad news for the village, which have left his popularity ratings at approximately 3 rotten vegetables to the face each day.
Indeed.
And as long as the capricious, changeable monster doesn't change his mind this time, our leader may well have played a blinder.
And if he does?
Let's not get into that right now.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, as spring approaches, we ask what can you do to ensure a good harvest? Our panel of experts discusses farming techniques and also top tips on who to sacrifice and how to ensure they're really a virgin.
Oh, Matt Green. I can't stop coughing, guys. It's just not going to go away. Mad Monk says it's not a step in the right direction. It's in place already. I know that as a manager. He says. Well, I don't know if that's Scotland and England have different sets there. So it's possible that maybe things are different in England as they are in Scotland. That might be the case. Because obviously there's a lot of things that we have differently to those in Scotland on that. I've always been on the minimum wage jobs. It destroys your mental health too, and it's almost always horribly insecure, said Mithril. Yeah, people on minimum jobs, minimum wage, need more help from the state to help them, and they're just not given enough. That is one of the biggest injustices, for sure, guys. It's definitely one of the biggest injustices for sure. I'll tell you what else is another big injustice is how much taxpayer money was thrown away by the bloody Conservatives. We talked a lot about, like, I covered this a while ago, guys. I can't actually believe this, that we're finding out that perhaps this may have cost even more than what it was originally thought. So this is from the Financial Times. The cost of High-Speed Rail 2's Bat Tunnel was 20% higher than previously thought. So the final price is expected to be £119 million with work completed in the next year. £119 million. The tunnel was designed to protect the colony of rare Bassetton bats as well. £119 million! Oh, such a waste of money! It's 20% higher. Every time you think, yeah, there's a final figure, you find out, oh no, there's actually more money to it. The NYSI down plus 4% today, and growth in the USA has been cut from 3.9% to 2.9%. Says QA Library to me. The NYSI was dropped more, and as Trump spoke, I'm not surprised. Unemployment law is reserved, I believe. I believe so. It's the same law, says Mad Monk 33. Okay, well, thanks for that, Mad Monk. Appreciate it. Obviously, I don't work in retail anymore, so Batman would be proud. What? Batman would be proud that so much taxpayer money is being wasted on his minions. So the final price tag for the notorious High-Speed 2 Bat Tunnel is on track to be a fifth higher than previously thought. Figures obtained by the Financial Times has shown. HS2's chair, Sir John Thompson, told a rail industry conference in November that the conversion project would cost £100 million, a number that swiftly entered public consciousness. Yeah, I remember saying that. I remember screaming at the time, how the hell can it cost £100 million? It was just didn't make sense at the time. Thompson's estimates were based on 2019 prices of £95 million. Figures obtained from HS2 by Freedom of Information request shows. Adjusted for inflation, the sum would be £119 million at today's prices, according to FT's calculations. Additionally, the structure is not due to be completed until next year, meaning the final cost could rise further with inflation. What are we going to do? Add another 10, 20 million slap on top of it? 140 million fucking pounds? Sorry, I don't like swearing, guys, but bloody hell. As of January this year, around 65.5 million in 2024 prices has been spent on the kilometres long steel mesh structure that is designed to protect bats from hitting the trains in the railway tunnel in Buckinghamshire. Figures also reveal there is still around 53.3 million to be spent on the project, but experts warned that the nature of public contracts meant that even if ministers cancelled the contract, they would still struggle to claw back all of the unspent money. It would be too expensive to break the contract despite the rise in costs, said Noble Francis. Yeah, sadly, as much as I hate this, I'm inclined to agree with this. The government are screwed either way. They're just gonna have to bite the bullet. It's not right. It's not right either way, guys. But we're just gonna have to put up with it. If you want the trains to kill the bats, REGANELITE, the tunnel was designed not to need to be repaired for 100 years, so the bats do not need to be disturbed. I get I get that, QA Library. I don't want the bats killed. This is the thing is that it should, for me, what infuriates me is that it costs over 100 million pounds. For me, it feels like the people who were designing this, the people behind this, intentionally spent more than they needed to. This is the crux of my problem. The crux of my problem is not that it wasn't needed to protect the bats. That's not my problem. The problem is that if someone's going to tell me that you couldn't do this in a cheaper way, I would have said you're out of your fucking mind. This did not need to cost £100 million. Someone has made a killing off this and making a killing off this. Yeah, I'm not going to accept this premise whatsoever that someone hasn't made a killing, that someone hasn't made some money off the back of these this government contract, because people have. We go back to that video that Alex from Political X did on the whole HS2 thing. People were making a killing, and this project is no different. This project was no different. I mean, right now I'd say things are a lot more screw tight, but because of this incoming Labour government, because they don't want taxpayer money going down the drain. But I feel like the damage has already been done because of the contracts that have been put in. Mark Wilkie, good to see you there. I hope you're doing well. Economics Director of the Construction Products Association, who added that it was essential that lessons were learnt from the future projects. Yeah, this is why I hope. Yeah. Going forward, the government needs to ensure that issues like these are resolved well before construction on major infrastructure projects. He said so many unnecessary additional construction works, like the Bat Tunnel, are persistently done in mitigation, leading to even more increases in construction costs. This right here. But this is the problem. We had it under a Conservative government who literally didn't care or were being very slow in everything. Yeah, it was a public consent to build it or directly given by the state. Joe, you're not understanding what I'm saying, guys. I'm not saying that I want the bats to die. What I'm saying is I'm talking about the cost, guys. I'm talking about the cost. My point is that it didn't need to cost £100 million. That's my point. Literally here, the point is that it shouldn't have costed as much as it did. And I'm not going to accept this premise that it could have been that there was no other way to have built it. Like, I'm sorry, it should not cost £100 million to build a fucking tunnel. Like, come on, let's get serious, guys. The tunnel designed to protect a colony of rare Baskin bats has become a atomic symbol of Britain's onerous planning regime and the extreme cost overruns at HS2. Steve Reid, who works for the water companies, told the FT it was ludicrous that taxpayers were spending vast sums on a bat tunnel. Regulators have held up the building of homes and infrastructure, blocking economic growth and doing little for nature, he said. That is why we're introducing new planning reforms and a nature restoration fund to unblock the building of homes and infrastructure and improve outcomes for the natural world. The Wildlife Trust, a charity, said that the government had ignored evidence provided to the high-speed preparation bill more than a decade ago that that highlighted cheaper, better alternatives to protect bats in the area. Here you go. See, literally, I've just literally said that. Here, look. The Wildlife Trust, a charity that said the government had ignored evidence provided to the high-speed preparation bill more than a decade ago that highlighted cheaper, better alternatives to protect the bats in the area, which are designed on the design site for specific scientific interest. So it's literally said there would have been cheaper, better alternatives to protect bats in the area. So I've literally just before you even got there, I made the point. This includes a government decision not to conduct a strategic environmental assessment and legal requirement to examine the wildlife impact of a plan or program. Becky Puller, the head of land using planning at the Wildlife Trust, said the bat tunnel showed that HS2 adopted an engineering solution to an ecological problem and the law did not require this. And she added what the law requires is to avoid harm to bats populations or indeed other protected species. In this case, this could have been involved choosing a route which would also avoid harm to beautiful medieval hunting forests. Yeah, so that there were plenty of other alternatives that could have been done. HS2 Limited said the demands of the UK planning environmental consensus process came at a high cost, largely out of HS2's limited control. Again, we have to remember that this was all done under the Conservatives as well. The bat measures was just one of 8,776 consents that HS2 needed from other public bodies to build the first phase of the rail link between London and Birmingham. The UK government has launched a major review into how to speed up the planning procedures. The cost of the entire railway between London and Birmingham continues to escalate and is now estimated to be around £67 billion. From London to Birmingham, £67 billion. And set to be revised upwards in the coming months. There is still no agreed plan or price tag for the high-speed railway line's terminus at Euston Station in central London. It's been a complete and total cock-up. Mark Wilde, who was appointed Chief Executive of HS2 last year, has defended the Bat Tunnel, telling a committee of MPs earlier this year that he can't apologise for the construction of the Bat Tunnel as it was the most appropriate way to comply with the law. But we just read that there were other alternative means, that there could have been other cost-cutting alternative means. I won't accept this. I won't accept this premise that they could not have done a cheaper alternative while also protecting the bats. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm not accepting that it needed to cost more than £100 million, guys. Come on. It shouldn't even cost £50 million, guys. It shouldn't even cost £50 million. But we're talking about more than £100 million. Okay, I know it's not billions and trillions, but it's still a huge amount of taxpayer money. Okay, it's still a huge amount of taxpayer money. Okay. Asked whether he regretted the decision, Wilde added, "It's an extraordinary amount of money, but in the context of the scheme that's costing tens of billions, it's built for 120 years." Yes, I get the point. It will last 100 years. Yes, all well and good. Yeah, but that doesn't mean we're going to get that £100 million back. It's not like we're investing in something that's going to give us back money in the future. It's not like the bats are going to start pooing out money out of their backsides for us, you know. The 13 grammatal baskin bats is one of the UK's rarest mammals, and its population numbers have suffered an extensive decline because of the habitat destruction, according to the Bat Conservation Trust. The Bat Tunnel is being built by EKFB, a joint venture between engineering companies Kia, and all of them declined to comment. How many consultants have got extremely rich on this BS, says Mithril. Yeah, I know. Alan Winnicott is an old bat, but probably lives in a tunnel. Yeah, but these bats are endangered, and Winnicott is just a problem that just won't. It's just a problem that won't go away. It's a serious environmental study. Things are done to allow the best alternative for both wild and the needed infrastructure with budget, someone watching over it and cancelling. I'm also a person that worries about the environment causes. The fact that I can call it green, it was scout and spent still a lot of time in nature, but in these cases, most of Europe are there. I'm not against the environment, the environmental aspects of it, Jao. Yeah, listen. You've got to have a balance between. You've got to have a balance, here, and the reality is that yes, the bats have the tunnel has been designed to protect the bats. Yes, I'm all for protecting nature. I'm all for protecting these bats. My issue is not protecting the wildlife, not protecting nature. You guys know my position on nature. I don't need to tell you my position on nature, guys. You know exactly where my position stands on it. What my problem is that it should not cost £100 million. More than that. Could it be up to 120, 130 million pounds? Yes, you can. Yes, it's going to last 100 years and what the other. That's great. Still doesn't give me assurance. Still, to me, I'm sorry, it should not cost that much amount of money. Is 100 million pounds really what's worth 100 million pounds worth it? Like, are you seriously going to tell me that there were not cheaper alternatives to do this while also protecting these species? Like, can you honestly tell me in the chat that there were no other alternatives, that there was no cheaper alternative in order to ensure that this that HS2 could be built while also ensuring the protection of these bats? There was no other cheaper alternative here. Can someone please tell me that you can't seriously tell me in the comments that there was no other way? There is no balance, Regan. We have turned the UK into a wildlife desert. Like, you have to remember, I have to keep saying this 100 times, guys. This was under the Conservatives, all right? Always remember that this was under the Conservatives, okay? Thinking about that there's been a railway tunnel around for at least a century. I'm sure bats have learned to negotiate the trains. The thing is, like, the tunnel, like, I don't know. I'm getting into something that I don't like. I don't have a bat. I'm not a bat expert, guys. I mean, I am a fan of Batman, but I'm not a bat expert. Careful, good to see you there. I hope you. The new road in London going under the River Thames could have cut down more trees and protected areas that building HS2 REGANELITE. There could have cut more trees and protected areas. Like, a part of me, like here's the thing. A part of me has suggested when the HS2 was being built, like, a part of me was thinking, would it have been cheaper just to build a massive tunnel rather than just building on top of the land? But then again, it comes back to costs. So I got lifted from my position on nature, bloody touching as the customers. Aki's mad. OFC, there are alternatives, but they are held up in our federal system. Understand regularly. Reason why I was asking is how it was organised to understand why it's costing so much. We need road, rail infrastructure, and that is clear. Yeah, no, I get that, Joe. Just my frustration is that the Conservatives, splash money, and just the people who were in charge of this project allowed money to run amok. They allowed money to run amok here. That's my anger and that's my frustration. It's not against protecting the species at all, guys. For me, it's just about the costs here, Anyway, we're going round in circles on this story. Let's go to a story that definitely we will all agree on, which is completely outrageous. And that's this one from the Times here. So Labour scrap workers' rights on to switch off to ease the squeeze on business. The policy means to stop employers placing demands on workers outside designated hours was a key part of Sir Keir Starmer's New Deal for working people. This really pisses me off. For me, it is so important for workers to be able to switch off from work. To be encapsulated in work 24/7 is really, really bad for your health. It is bad for your mental health. It means you don't have as much of an enjoyable life. It could have an effect on you later on in life because, as you are young, you are growing up and you're living, right? You are consumed by your job or whatever. Yeah. You come home, your intention is to switch off from work. Yeah. You want to just, whether it's watch TV, read book, music, whatever you do when you switch off, right? And they can, and when you're in these WhatsApp groups, right? This is one thing I've learned, actually. I'm going all over the place, but this is something I want to put out there, you know. One thing I really hated is, you know, a lot of jobs now, and you guys know this, you know, they have WhatsApp groups. You know, you have your WhatsApp groups now. Unless you mute it, unless you mute your WhatsApp groups, you're not switching off. You're still part of you're still in it. Like, you can literally be away on holiday, right? You're in a hotel or whatever, and you can still see the messages of work while you're on holiday, when you're not supposed to be thinking about work. This is a big problem. This is a big problem, because back in the days before mobile phones, you could go away and not worry about your job, not worry about all the whatever's going on. And I don't give a shit what businesses say. People should rightly be able to switch off, and it should only in an emergency they should be contacted. Only in an emergency should someone be contacted on their day off. Yeah, only in an emergency. And there's someone who worked in 15 years in retail. That's how it should be. It should only be in emergency. I will never forget that time when I'll never forget the time where I worked for this. I can't remember the guy's name. It was a long time ago when I used to work in one store. I had a terrible store manager. He was an arrogant prick. And I will never forget the time that he called me up when I was on my holiday with my dad. We were abroad, and he called me up for something. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, and it really, like, I didn't think at the time, I don't remember much of my thoughts, but I just remember feeling angry and feeling depressed, knowing I've got to go back to that while I'm supposed to be on a holiday, supposed to be enjoying myself, and yet my boss can just call me just out of the middle of nowhere on the fact that I'm literally on holiday, like I shouldn't be thinking about this, and yet here he is calling me, and it's not right. The right to switch off is really, really important. I don't know if you, I wouldn't say switching off your phone, but maybe muting it. Yeah, these WhatsApp groups is a good start, but it's really unfair on people. I think sometimes the best thing to do is literally leave your phone in the other room, but you can't leave your phone in the other room because you also got your family on that phone as well. So you're in a lose-lose situation because you have everyone in that phone, unless you're prepared to pay for 2 mobile phones, which, you know, cost of living crisis you don't really have. I mean, it's just, how do you get out of this situation? The whole point of going on holiday is to get away from work. Yes, get away from work, but also to have a good time, to have a good time as well. And try and have a good time as well is what you're supposed to do, Mark Wilkie. Good to see you, buddy. Anybody else I haven't said hello to. Cannot harass workers here. A lot of US companies operate here. I was surprised that even if their workers were working online here, their company was still liable to interactions to our work laws and got fined and even banned from operating here, the same as happened all over the EU. That's good. What do I do? What do I do? Don't have a mobile? Yeah, exactly. Like, everyone has to have a mobile phone now. Everyone has to have a mobile phone. The UK held all these laws before Brexit, and Sunak, the Chancellor, had simply sacked the rights of workers in the UK by regulation. The way the UK helped these laws to be created in the EU. Hold on, I thought the right was already in place. I thought it was not brought in by the EU before left through Brexit. I'm sure, as I remember my boss once, that I was off the clock. Let's speak to him late. Yeah. We'll have to, I will point this out here because this is really, really important context with regards to this headline before we read into it, guys. The Times are the only one that has reported this story. I have not officially heard a response from the Labour government. So it is entirely possible. It is entirely possible that this story may have been leaked. Like the Conservatives. You know how the Conservatives, they leak stories, right? To test to see the waters, to see how people will react. This could be the same concept with the Labour government. They may be testing to see whether they can get away with this one or not. That's what is entirely possible. So it could be possible that it's a case of, can we get away with turning this off to appease businesses? And they're testing the waters to see how the public respond before they make a decision on it. You know, remember, the Conservatives did this as well, and we know that Labour are doing this as well. Because as far as when I literally Google this headline, and the Times were the main ones who were reporting this story. Mithril said, I got a call asking if I could cover a shift. I said, okay, as long as you pay me for my travel time and expenses. They wanted me to work in Southampton. I mentioned I was on the holiday in Oban. Yeah, that's when I was manager for a period in my career. I went out of my way to make sure that I did not, disturb anyone on their holidays, unless I absolutely had no other choice to do so, because out of a matter of principle, you know. We've a 2.2 billion children's hospital here opening up in any new year now, and a 336,000 bike shed. Modified bus shelter, but can't beat 100 million for a bat tunnel. Damn. 356,000 for a bike shed, modified bus shelter. It still feels like too much money to me, but I don't know enough about the story, the context enough about the story there. 56,000 for a bike shed, modified bus shelter. Let's read a bit more into this, guys. So remember, this is only the Times that have reported it. If you hear it anywhere else, it's because they got the story from the Times. So, plans to give people the right to switch off outside of working hours will be dropped by the government this week. So, we'll find out this week whether they are actually dropping it or not. In a move to reduce the impact of Labour's new employment rights on businesses. Policy had formed a central part of Sir Keir Starmer's manifesto, vowed to establish a new deal for working people. While it did not appear in the Employment Rights Bill going through Parliament, the government had committed to implementing it in the future. The right to switch off policy closely mirrors laws introduced in France in 2017, which was designed to end the always-on culture by making it illegal for employers to accept their workers to be contractable outside designated work hours. So on Tuesday, ministers will confirm that the policy has been dropped when they table a series of amendments to the bill. So tomorrow they're supposed to be dropping this. So we'll find out tomorrow whether it actually is or not. The decision has been taken by Jonathan Reynolds, the Business Secretary, and Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, amid concerns that the provision would have been too much of a burden on businesses. No, it would not be a burden on businesses. It would not be a burden on businesses. It's bad enough that people are struggling out there. It's bad enough that their energy bills are going up. Their water bills are going up. Their council taxes are going up. It's bad enough, that Liz Truss crashed the economy, crashing the economy, sent mortgages prices soaring, putting people in a very difficult position. Is it too much to ask for people to be able to switch off when they are absolutely working themselves to death right now? Is it really too much to ask? No, apparently not. Reeves is seeking to boost business confidence and economic growth over her tax-raiding budget in October, imposing significant additional costs on employers, and was met with widespread criticism. So this is her way of trying to appease to employers because of what she did with the budget in October. Is this one of her ways of wooing them? Yeah, because I screwed you over by putting this tax hike on you guys. Yeah, I'll stop. I'll let you guys keep harassing workers. A government source said the right to switch off is dead. We had to lower business compliance costs as much as possible. Growth that puts money in people's pockets is the number one priority of this government's plan for change. That means business making Britain the best country in the world, which is to do business. A key part of it is removing unnecessary barriers. This is not a barrier. This is protecting people. What this is going to do, okay? Do you know what this is going to do? Because do you know what this is going to do, right? This is going to make workers less productive. It's going to make workers less productive. That's what this is going to do. Angela Rayner, Deputy Prime Minister, who led Labour's Workers' Rights Programme while in opposition, has also agreed to remove, although it's unclear how supportive she is. She's literally, she has to toe a line. But I hope people around her are giving her a battering. Rayner's original programme had already been rebranded. It was renamed Labour's Plan to Make Work Pay in May. Has had a commitment on ending net zero-hour contracts we worded to focus on exploitative zero-hour contracts. Yeah, she's being played. She's being played in her role. However, since Labour came to power, business groups have called for further change, with the Federation of Small Business warning in January that firms would curb recruitment and lay off workers unless further changes to legislation were made. Rayner has retained her role as strategically led on the policy, but Reynolds and Reeves have become increasingly involved. The move is also likely to ignite fierce criticism from the party's trade union backers, who have become vocal advocates of legal protections to separate work and home life. Yes, unions need to shout more about this. Unions need to shout really loud about this if this does come to pass tomorrow. In changes to the bill, ministers will announce a lighter touch approach towards probation periods, another concession to business leaders. The government will signal a preference to set probation periods at 9 months rather than 6 months demanded by union leaders. Probation is viewed by employers as an important protection that allows businesses to hire staff in the knowledge that they can more easily be dismissed if they are unable to deliver. There is no maximum probation period that employers can impose on new starters who can be asked to leave with 1 week's notice. In excess of 850 companies, more than double the number of trade unions and worker representation bodies, have responded to a consultation announced last autumn on changing workers' rights. Not only are ministers refusing to bow to all union demands, but the reform will not be implemented until autumn 2016 at the earliest. So there is time to turn it around. So you've got till autumn next year. Businesses are bracing for tax increases coming into force next month as a result of Reeves' budget last autumn. Rises in the national minimum wage and employers' national insurance contributions will squeeze the finances of companies big and small. Industry sources says while there's been no explicit acceptance that the Chancellor's tax hikes have gone too far, interaction with ministers suggests a reconciliation with Whitehall of the financial burden borne by businesses, many of which are still battling with a legacy COVID debt. Employers will not have it all their own way. However, day one protections against unfair dismissals and policies relating to other rights, such as paternity pay and unpaid parental leave, will remain. Zero-hour contracts will still be curtailed and workers given individual rights to guarantee hours, while trade union representation and the ability to strike will be made easier by repealing Conservative law. That's good. That's at least good there. A government source has said it's important that our changes to the employer's right bill works for business. That's why we've made it engagement with so many employers. Bringing forward a new generation of workers' rights. We've heard all that. Labour's proposal on probation periods have around interest among business leaders. The boss of one of Britain's biggest retailers said this was a bill cooked up in opposition, with the unions being very much involved, and it's sort of political debt to pay. The probation period for large employers is very important because you never know whether it's quite the right fit between an employer and a new employee, and the work they're going to do until a few weeks after they've joined. Yeah, that's I get the probation period thing. I understand that, but for me, it's about protecting the workers. And I feel like the workers have been shafted here. You know, the right to be able to switch off, I think is wrong. I think it's wrong. If you cannot afford to look after your employees, you should not be in business. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. They are justifying a thing they cannot justify. I was an employer and an employee for my current line of work, and things are planned to have people working when they must not bother. I remember the same argument being made about the minimum wage. Yeah. A time to work, a time to eat, a time to rest. Rest dead in the UK, it seems. Where does the mono start? If workers belong in a union, these sort of things wouldn't happen. I have less sympathy for workers because they've turned their backs on unions. That's government and politics pushing back against unions. You know, there's this premise that's been built around from the public about unions is that all they do is harass. You know, a perception has been created about unions in the UK that they're bad for people. That's the problem. A perception has been made about them by the media, by reporters, by YouTubers, by people online. You know, if you create a big enough picture of people, of a group, yeah, people's thoughts and feelings about them can change. When there were so many strikes, both under Labour and then under Labour and then the Conservatives, You know, people was, to them, they were able to take advantage of that situation. Take advantage of say that all that look at these unions with their big fat cats pays and all this kind of stuff. And whether it was true or not, it seeped into the minds of people. You know, it's propaganda and it works. And when you hear, but the problem is that many people don't realize just how beneficial being a part of a union is, how much of a lifesaver being a part of a union is, how it does help. The only downside is you have to pay to be a part of the union, but you have a voice in a group of voices that speak on your behalf in these things. Union must be part of the discussion, like them or hate them. They are needed to defend the worker from the employer, and that has money and power. Well, it did say in there that they are going to have more power to strike in there. That the Times did say that in the article, so they are getting that at least. I'd say, is it enough? No, of course not. You know, for me, there's workers are still a long way off from what they used to have 14, 15 years ago when the Conservatives took over. So the last one I've got for you guys is from Barlow Times. This is a very interesting one here. So millions of people are unable to vote in the UK, as report reveals a number of foreign citizens are disenfranchised by seat. So some parliamentarian seats, as many as 30,000 voting age residents who are unable to vote. So before I actually give my thoughts, let me read a bit more into this just to give some context to this. So, over 4 million residents of voting age in the UK are unable to vote due to the messy patchwork of rules about which non-Brits can vote in our elections. So, a new research report commissioned by the campaign group Migrant Democracy Project exposes the extent in which migrant residents remain disenfranchised, unable to vote in the UK. The results are astounding, according to non-profit Migrant Democracy Project. The analyst found that 4.4 million residents remain eligible to vote in parliamentary elections for MPs across the UK. Even for local elections, where the rules are less strict, 1.2 million residents of voting age remain eligible to vote in local elections in England and Northern Ireland due to rules on which country citizens can vote here. The rules apply regardless of how long that they have lived and paid taxes in the UK. So basically, people who aren't British citizens but may have worked 10, 20, maybe 30 years in our country have no right to vote, despite the fact that they have lived and worked a huge chunk of their lives. Some of them, they have no right to vote. Now, is that fair? That's the general question. Is it fair because they're not British citizens, even though that they've worked, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years in the UK, paid their taxes, done their fair share of dues? Is it right that they should not have a vote just because they're not British citizens? They don't have a British passport. Is that right? Answers in the comments, please. London appears most affected by a high number of non-voting residents, particularly parts of Westminster, as well as Tottenham North, West Ham, Poplar and Limehouse East and Brent West. The capital would likely gain more seats in Parliament if MPs' boundaries were tweaked to represent hundreds of thousands of currently unrepresented potential voters. Areas like Peterborough, Cambridge, Luton, Leicester and parts of Birmingham would also likely gain representation if the rules were changed to expand the franchise. In Scotland and Wales, 88,000 residents have gained the right to vote in recent years, though reform pursued by their devolved governments through relatively large numbers remain unable to vote in Glasgow and Edinburgh. The report, conducted by Professor Toby James and Jamie Underwood from the University of East Anglia, is the first of its kind to pinpoint the magnitude of this disenfranchisement, according to the study backers. Excuse me. God damn cough won't go away. What If Everyone Could Vote reveals gross disparities between communities, with the top 10 constituents having more than 20,000 disenfranchised voters on average, while 26 others have fewer than 100,000, including Bishop Auckland, Roger Valley, Redcar and Hexham. Irish and qualifying Commonwealth citizens of voting age can cast their ballots in all elections in the UK. Rules on Commonwealth citizens stem from British colonial history, put into law through the British Nationality Act of 1948 and Representation of the People's Act of 1949. However, EU citizens, except Irish people, or those of non-Commonwealth countries cannot vote for members of Parliament, no matter how long that they have lived here. That is despite the last government changing the rules so that Brits living outside the UK for over 15 years are still able to vote and donate to political parties here from abroad. Lord Ali doesn't need to be able to vote. He just buys Keir some specs and his wife a couple of dresses. That's true. That is true. We need to be able to abolish this mentality of economic value and switch to option to be able to switch to the best option economy, best for us and for the environment, internal combustion motors and been since the 50s, says Zhao. There are seen some hopes. There are some interesting studies with our solar electricity cars here. That's Portugal for reference from Zhao. It all started with some kids in a uni in Evora. Last I heard, they were developing it at the Technical Institute of Lisbon with the state of EU funds. Oh, that sounds very good. I worked for 20 years in France and paid, and I'm still paying taxes, and I don't have the right to vote in national elections, says Jane Wallace. Yeah, for me, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me. Like, there should be, like, I'm not saying that if you've lived in a country for 10, 20, 30 years, that you should get automatic citizenship. I'm not saying that. But I think you should be given something. You should be given a right to vote if you've contributed for more than a huge chunk of your life here. Like, I think like 20 to 30 years, if you've worked in the same country, if you've shown that you have paid taxes over like 20, 30 years of your life in one country, yeah, and you have shown that you have, you should be eligible to be able to vote. Because because even though you don't have a British passport, your nationality is not British. You are literally British by contributing 20 plus years of your life, yeah, here, paying your taxes, working your salaries. It would need to be checked and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how it would be done, but the fact that, like, Irish people, with the exception of Irish people, can still vote, but EU citizens, even though that they've worked 20, 30 years or whatever in our country, they still can't vote despite contributing to us. Yeah, it's a problem. And that deeply affects, obviously, the elections as well. This is another thing we talk about, all the things that we've talked about at the general election. This is something we've never really talked about. I hope they bring this up at the next general election. A Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government spokesperson told Byline Times this government will deliver important election reforms to strengthen our democracy. This includes extending voting rights to 16-year-olds. I'm very happy about that. We have no plans to revise the franchise for foreign nationals. Meanwhile, Byline Times understand that the policy, so the government have no plans to look at it. Byline Times understand that the policy of extending the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds will be in place in good times ahead of the next general election. You can see the complex webs of rules or who can vote in different elections here or below. So, is this the whole... okay. So, who can vote in elections? Election type, voting age, British, Irish and qualified Commonwealth. EU citizens can arrive in the UK by the 31st of December 2020 from the 1st of January 2021 onwards, and are from a country that has a bilateral voting rights agreement with the UK, or from the 1st of January 2021, and are not from a country that has bilateral voting rights and agreements with the UK, or citizens of other countries. So scroll down. So UK parliamentary elections, yes. British, Irish and Commonwealth qualifying. Everybody else is no. Police and Crime Commissioner, yeah, this is England, yes. Electoral mayors, yes. Councils, yes. And EU citizens, to a certain extent, yes, they can. God, this is complicated. But yeah, and then other citizens and other EU citizens, no. Northern Ireland Assembly, yes, yes. Councils, yes, yes, again. Interesting, Wales. We'll get to Scotland in a minute, guys, don't worry. This Sea Cymru, everyone. Citizens in other countries. Look, They can all vote in Wales. Councils can all vote. Police and Crime Commissioner, just the top two there. Yeah. Scotland, Scottish Parliament, yes, 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 yes. Council, yes, 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 yes. So if you are in Scotland, I obviously I don't know the full details, and you know I'm sure I would love Dave McGuinness to expand on this. Obviously, I'm assuming that if you've lived and worked in Scotland, paid your taxes after a fair amount of time, you'd be entitled to vote because you've worked and contributed to your time in Scotland. Therefore, we believe you have a right to vote in our country because you may not have a British passport, but you are Scottish because you have worked and contributed to this country, and it's right that you should have a say in it. Henceforth, why they give it. This is from the Migrant Democracy Project there. Just a handful of EU countries have reprimandable voting deals with the UK, where Brit residents can still vote in their country's elections if they arrive after Brexit, and vice versa. They are Denmark, Luxembourg, Portugal, Poland and Spain. One long-term resident from the constituency of Kensington and Bayswater, ranked first with approximately 33,000 disenfranchised residents, told the researchers, "It's sad that as a UK resident of 10 years, I'm unable to participate in a political system that affects me and other domesticated workers. I want to contribute and we want representation." The report also explores the practicalities of extending the franchise. Electoral reform in Scotland and Wales allows all lawful residents the right to vote in their local and devolved regulations, regardless of their nationality. The new report claims that these reforms have created a simpler and more equal electoral system with fewer financial, administrative and political hurdles. Lara Plasado, Executive Director of Migrant Democracy Project, commented on the findings, saying, "We have to question whether democracy is living up to its name when over 4 million people are excluded from voting. Well, we've already determined that our voting system is not fair anyway, just on the fact that we have a first-past-the-post system here in the UK. So I think we're all in agreement of that. This report exposes a huge demographic gap when some migrant communities have full voting rights while millions of others have no right to vote at all. UK must urgently follow the example of Scotland and Wales and extend the right to vote to all." The estimated cost of implementing full resident-based voting rights will be relatively modest, according to Professor James, at $12.2 million per year plus $1.8 million in a one-off implementation cost, which works out to approximately £2.96 per voter per electoral cycle. An estimated over 500,000 extra residents who are unable to vote here arrive in the UK between 2021 and 2025, the researchers say. Electoral boundaries are currently drawn based on the number of registered voters, meaning areas with higher numbers of unelected franchise residents arguably have a weaker voice in Parliament. In Scotland and Wales, after implementing so-called residence-based voting reforms, the nation saw the modest increase in voter registration without major administrative difficulties, though voter engagement was identified as a challenge. The Human Rights Monitoring Council of Europe, of which the UK is a member, recommends granting voter rights in local elections after a certain period of residence. This is something that I agree with. For me, it's a case of, if you live in a country, if you work in a country, if you contributed to a nation, you should be entitled to cast your vote in it because you have played a part in that country. For me, that's my premise of it. It shouldn't be a case. For me, I don't agree with this premise that someone should turn up into another nation and to be able to cast their vote straight away. My premise is that if that person has not broken any laws, if that person has contributed, paid their taxes, followed all the laws, followed all the rules, and has contributed as a working part of society in that country, then yes, they should be able to vote. That's how I see it. I'm not sure about giving it straight away though, but I'm not sure about giving it straight away. Like, for me, it's like if they spent a couple like 10, 20 years, like, they should be at least given that right to vote. So I'm a bit hesitant to say, oh yeah, someone's turned straight up in your country and they've got a right, they can vote in your country, even though they've only just literally arrived. No, I'm a little bit resentful of that, if I'm honest. The Human Rights Monitoring I've already said that, sorry. The recent laws in Scotland extend voting rights to refugees, but exclude asylum seekers, i.e. those who haven't had their claims accepted. I personally don't agree with that. extending voting rights to all residents, regardless of how long they've lived here, would likely trigger a right-wing backlash and outright from parts of the press. Yeah, this is another thing as well. This year, the right-wingers will be up in arms. This outlet understands that the Labour government believes voting should be based on citizenship rather than residence. An overall government strategy for elections is due to be published later this year. Full report is here. All readers can view the map detailing. Readers can view a map detailing the number of disenfranchised residents per constituency here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm in two minds on. I'm in two minds. See, here's the thing, right? You know, for me, voting is a right. Yes, voting is a very important right that people should be entitled to. But it's not something I believe that should be given to someone simply because they've arrived in a country or a nation. I think it's for me personally, it should be something that you earn, not something you should be given. That's my personal opinion. I know people will disagree with me, but I think it should be something that should be earned. When you go to another country, it's fine. We can disagree on it, but that's my feeling on it. Immigration is a reserved matter. Nothing the Scottish government can do about it. But why is it only in Scotland that you have it, and not the rest of the UK? Not the rest of the UK. Then that's a very odd thing. Most long-time Brits are here. It seems saw it in the news. Take it with a grain of salt. Are just getting Portuguese nationality here since they speak the language here and their lives here. And here Brits can't vote for local elections. Not sure if they're eligible for local mayor positions. Giles says they're in Portugal. Yeah, because this is honest. Like I said, guys, this is my honest opinion, right? I believe everyone can. Like, from my position, is a case of, like, if you come to a country, if you work and you contribute, then you should absolutely be entitled to cast your vote. But I don't think it should be something that should be automatically given to someone when they arrive. That's my personal opinion. That is my personal opinion. Because I personally don't think it's right that I should turn up in another country, having done no contributions to that nation whatsoever, and I can still cast a vote in it when I've done absolutely, literally nothing yet. But that's my personal opinion. Now, I totally understand people would say that's undemocratic because you're taking that person's vote away. For me, and I accept that argument. But for me, it's about well, if you're going to live, if you're going to live and contribute, show that you're going to work and contribute and be a part of that society or part of that nation or town or community or wherever you are from. And once you do, then you should be eligible to vote, just like everybody else there. That's my crux of it. You know. You get immigration mixed up with foreign workers. Let me read it again. The recent law in Scotland extends voting rights to refugees, but excluded asylum seekers, i.e. those who haven't had their claims accepted. Well, of course, yeah, those who haven't had their claims accepted, obviously, they shouldn't be entitled yet. But a recent law in Scotland extends voting rights to refugees. So my position is, so for me, the refugees, in my opinion, I don't think should be given that voting right. I think they should earn it. That's my personal opinion. So that's basically it. I think that's my personal opinion. I don't contribute Regan. I'm on universal credit, and that's a slippery slope. But you've been in and out of jobs. You've been trying to find a job. So for in your case, Mithril, right? You've been trying to get work, right? You haven't been completely on universal credit for a long time, right? If you live and work, like if you're still trying to contribute, if you're showing that you are trying to contribute, then you should be entitled to it. Like for me, it shouldn't be. I know I'm pissing off a lot of people in my comments. I know I am. I just don't think it should be a case that's automatic for people just turning up in another country and being able to vote. I don't agree with it, guys. That's just my personal opinion. There's a lot of Portuguese with dual nationality. Myself could get Portuguese and German nationality, and many rights from the vote in the country, or voting is a right for citizenship. Devolved Parliament, Jane Wallace says. Well, yeah, it showed the graph because it was different countries. You know, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England. So it wasn't just a case. It wasn't just a case of. This is how it was in every single one. Like, I'm not saying that you can't vote. You shouldn't be entitled to vote. My point is that people shouldn't get it straight away. That's my point. You know. Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate of how the right just would argue with your vote. Yeah, from the right wing point. Yeah. I'm doing it from, like, I'm not thinking about the consequences of how the right wing will react to it. Like, I don't give a fuck what they think. Like, because we know what they're going to think about all this if they ever change it in England. We know how they would play the game. But I'm thinking about it, like, for me, is it, like, I'm doing this from my moral principles and my values of what. Is it right that somebody, like it says there, like a refugee comes to this country, right? Like, they have done zero contributions, they've done nothing, right? They've just literally arrived in the UK, right? Their asylum application gets processed, they're accepted as a refugee, right? Is it right that person should be allowed to vote? When they have no idea about the UK, they don't know anything about our political system, like, they've just arrived, they haven't spoken the language, like, they've literally just arrived in the UK. Like, For me, it should be a case of, like, okay, even just, like, literally just a couple of years before they could be able to vote or something, you know. Like, just not straight away. That's just my premise. I'm not saying to deny them the right ever to vote. I'm not saying that. Like, for me, it's like, you've come to the UK, you want to, if you want to work, if you want to be, you come to the UK because you want to be a part of our society. Great. Show that you're going to be a part of society. And then you can have a say in our so-called democracy. That's the premise that I'm trying to paint. I'm just not very good at explaining it. But I'm sure you guys I'm sure you guys are understanding where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's not what I'm saying. I just feel like that people who come to another country should earn the right to be able to vote. You know, it's like if people go to prison, you know, if people break the laws and break crimes, is it right that they should be able to vote if they're in prison? No, they shouldn't. Because you broke the law, so you shouldn't have a right to say in our the next government or the next political leaders, because you've broken the law in our country, so you should not have a right to say for that. So anyways, guys, we have gone my God, how have we gone so long? I only had 6 articles. I've talked way too much, guys. Okay, guys, we can have this discussion more on Discord. If you guys want to come and join me on Discord, and we can talk a little bit more about this, I'm more than welcome to have you guys come on to the Discord. Someone could put a link in the chat. It'd be greatly appreciated. But just before we head there, guys, got one more funny video for you guys. I want to say, first of all, thank you, Stephen Moore, for the 10 New Zealand dollars super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you guys all for your comments. I really appreciate the interaction we've had today. I think it's very, very interesting. I've liked this discussion. We're not always like a very, very interactive one here today with some of the discussions here. I thought it was very, very good conversations that we had today, guys. So I really appreciate all your comments and feedback. Whether we agree or disagree on anything, it's always good stuff. It's great stuff because it means I'm learning, you're learning, and that's what the channel is always about, learning together. So I really want to say thank you guys for all your comments. I really do appreciate it. But like I said, we've got one more funny video for you guys. This one, you're definitely going to... this one will be... Hopefully you'll get a bit of a laugh out of this one. This is from Michael Spicer with another one of his room next door between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. So hopefully... I hope you guys enjoy this one here. So, so here we go. Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. Let's see how Michael Spicer handled this one, you guys.
We can say that we're going to be getting along on every one of them. We've had a tremendous relationship. And frankly, the Prime Minister and I have met twice before. And
that's it, Prime Minister, nearly there. Not long to go now, then you can go back to your hotel room and scrub this whole experience off.
we get along very famously, as you would say.
Give that a chuckle.
And
That's it, humour the tyrant. Now give him the letter.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King.
Oh, you can tell he's impressed.
So can I present a letter from the King?
thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Postman Pat. What else have you got? A parcel for next door?
Am I supposed to read it right now?
Sorry, my apologies. I'm going to start again because it went way too fast. I do apologise.
And frankly, the Prime Minister and I have met twice before. And
That's it, Prime Minister, nearly there. Not long to go now, then you can go back to your hotel room and scrub this whole experience off.
we get along very famously, as you would say.
Give that a chuckle.
And
That's it, humour the tyrant. Now give him the letter.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King.
Oh, you can tell he's impressed.
So can I present a letter from the King?
thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Postman Pat. What else have you got? A parcel for next door?
Am I supposed to read it right now?
Oh my God, I forgot you can't read. Hopefully he'll just pretend to read it to himself. Well, this is going well.
Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph...
Yes, so
Oh my God, that was so obvious. All right, just read it, Postman Pat. Get on with it.
it's an invitation for a second state visit.
Whoop-de-flip.
This is really special.
It certainly is. I mean, I can barely contain my, whatever.
Happily take that back to His Majesty.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, I have in my hand a piece of paper, kind of optics, but never mind. Take some questions.
AUKUS, sir. Will you be discussing AUKUS with the Australians and the Brits? Will you be discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir?
What does that mean?
Oh, God.
AUKUS, the Australia-US Defence Alliance.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing that.
Oh, yeah, we'll be discussing that thing that I've never heard of before and you've just told me about. Yeah, sure.
You know, the British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves.
Yes, they certainly can now they've reduced the foreign aid budget. In fact, tell him that, Pat. Tell him you've cut foreign aid. He'll like that. He did that himself. It's one of the first things he did. Find some common ground, yeah? Tell him that despite pledging in your manifesto that you'd increase foreign aid, you've actually decided that it's better for the international community to make less money available for hospitals and vaccination programmes and humanitarian crises all around the world.
But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them.
Comforting to know, thanks.
You have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have. I'm very proud of our country. And but we've also
Oh my God, that was one of the worst handshakes I've ever seen. I wish they'd stop touching each other.
backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen.
Absolutely. Or you're just a lapdog sitting next to a convicted felon controlled by Russia who is installing an authoritarian government to destroy democracy and start a new world war, and who's just agreed to an aid cut that will kill 600,000 people. One of the two. Still, I hope he enjoys his state visit to the UK, even though the only king that excites him is Burger King.
Well, the Burger King line was my favourite. I love the Burger King line. Well, I thought he was a McDonald's person. Guys. What do you think? I thought he liked McDonald's. I didn't realize Donald Trump was a Burger King guy. Yeah, I thought. Wasn't it all? No, it wasn't. Was it McDonald's on his overall office in his first term? Pretty sure it was that. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I love that bit where Donald Trump is just standing there, just pretending to read the letter. It's like, you're not reading the letter, are you? You can't read it, can you? To be fair, like that, like my late nan, in Ireland, she had this wonderful, beautiful handwriting. But he was so good, I could not read it. I had to get Dad to read it whenever she sent a letter when I was younger. I got sent a letter, and it was like, I can't read it. You have to read it to me because I can't read it. Because we didn't talk much on the phones. It was always a case of the letters because it was much easier. But yeah, I was like, so I'm just imagining myself with like Donald Trump there. Like, instead of making a complete idiot of himself, what he should have done is said, give it. He could have even given it to JD Vance. JD Vance probably would have handled it a little bit better, you know. Oh dear, oh dear. So guys, I want to say a massive thank you guys for coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. I'll be on the Discord chat shortly. And I'll be back live tomorrow at 6 p.m. for the Snowflake Corner. We got a lot to talk about with the Middle East because by the time we get, it's very possible that by the time we get to the Snowflake Corner tomorrow, that perhaps maybe the Hamas ceasefire may have broken. Like, that's how tense things are right now there. So, and obviously what's been happening lately has been, people haven't been hearing much about it. So we will be discussing that among other things tomorrow on there. So do join me for that. Wednesday's live stream is a mental health live stream. It has been while we have not done one this year, so I want to do one this. So we're going to be doing one this Wednesday. So do join me for that if you want. If you want to talk about mental health, because I think it's a really good time. For, a couple of months now, and it feels like the world is coming to an end. So do join me for that. No politics. Try not to talk about politics if we can help it on there. Thursday we will have the Snowflake Watch, which is normally on Wednesday. That will be on Thursday, guys. And then Friday I will probably do another live stream with regards to Donald Trump, because that's how crazy things really are. So I'll probably do that as well. I just want to say finally before we head out as well. Thank you to those who watched the premiere videos over the weekend. I apologize for not attending them. I could not attend them. I had so much going on. I really wanted to, but it was just a case of the times that they were premiering were the times where I was traveling. So I couldn't even look at traveling, or I was busy with family or whatever, or whatever, that I just could not even look at my phone just to come on. Like, that's how busy I was at those time periods. So I apologize. For that, guys. But hopefully next weekend, if I get premiere videos again, I'll be able to. Next weekend, we're not planning too much next weekend, so I should be able to attend them if I record them. But yeah, thanks guys so much for watching, and whatever you guys do for the rest of the week, take care, whether it's going on other live streams or whatever. Hopefully I'll catch you guys around. But before I go, I just have one last thing to say, that if you haven't already, please hit that like button. We greatly appreciate it, and share this across social media so others are notified of this live stream. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.